Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Opposite the Monitor, and I'm Scott.
And I'm Anthony.
And today we're going to get into some topics today, and the first one that's up first is Overwatch 2's PvE Hero Mode is being scrapped completely. And Blizzard gave a response as to why it's being scrapped. And I'm pretty sure Anthony, both agree that we don't care about the reason why. It's the fact of you did it, you promised something, and you didn't fulfill it. And
yeah, we don't care.
I don't care for the reason. Don't care about the reason as to why. It's if you have something that you promise to your consumer base and then you don't deliver on that, then you're just simply a failure. Yeah, a failure, lying, all that stuff in my eyes. You know what I'm saying? So I mean. So, if people can remember, back when Overwatch 1 was out and it was prominent, and it was popular, people loved it, people shipping characters to different characters and trying to create this different romance all on the internet and stuff like that. And, Blizzard came out and was like, all right, you know what? We're going to make a Overwatch 2 and we're going to give you the same damn characters that you had before. And we're not going to really change anything, but the difference that's going to make this different between 1 and 2 is a PvE mode. And now we're completely taking that out of the roadmap. So this is presented by GameSpot, and they kind of had an interview with one of the developers, one of the creators at Blizzard, who specifically works on Overwatch. And they went on to say that PvE hero component that would allow players to gather their squads and play through a narrative-driven multiplayer experience. On top of that, each of the heroes that they come to know and love will be reworked for PvE and given progression systems that will allow players to unlock new talents. It was an ambitious new mode that in many ways was used to justify the 2 at the end of the title. What do you think about this, Anthony? Like, I know you don't really play Overwatch 2 like that. I know you heard of it, obviously. It's like a worldwide phenomenon. But Like
I'd be living under a rock if I didn't.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I was like, so like, how does, what do you think about, this entire scenario and, Blizzard constantly just like dropping the ball again. And it's like they're losing faith and like their player base is losing faith in them in general.
Well, I feel like it was a 100% attention grab, new audience grab. And then when they didn't hold true, it's like, oh, we don't give a shit anymore about this new audience. We're going to continue with the people that were obviously steadily playing this game the entire time, and they'll be okay with us letting them down because they like the game for what it was to begin with.
Yeah,
it's literally just that.
Yeah, and I also think too, like they create a lot of developers, and what I've just seen, just with like even developers or like publishing companies, stuff like that, like they do and say certain things to kind of it's all a hype machine. It's all a hype machine to get hype drawn up to be able to have, their consumers out to go out and like try to, hey, we're giving this element to the game, or we're delivering this portion of narrative driven story to the game and stuff like that, and like we're adding this character and stuff like that to try to draw enough hype to make people try to either go out and pre-order the game or invest a lot of money into the game and stuff like that. And then it's like after the game releases, now we don't care about our promises that were made previously, and it just seems to become a trend. You know what I'm saying? And me personally,
at least the game is free, by the way.
Yeah, it's free to play.
I would be super pissed if I bought it specifically for that aspect, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, never mind."
Yeah, but even then, it's just like the free to play aspect of it. Like, so I spent some time playing Overwatch 2 when it first came out, and they had the same issues that they had with Diablo 4 when it first released, was terrible servers. They cannot get their like Chinese servers to work at all for some reason. And so it's just like people were literally like legit waiting like days to get into the game to even play it. And the only thing that was like accessible at the time was like the shooting range. And that's if you got past the queue, because people were in queue for like 40 to 50 minutes at a time. Sometimes even 2 hours.
You would not catch me doing that.
Yeah. So it's like people were sitting waiting in queue. Once you were able to get past the queue, the only thing that was like virtually playable was the shooting range, because if you tried jumping into an actual match, you'd get kicked. Like, it was like people just getting kicked left and right. You know what I'm saying? So they had that aspect of it that was just a failure, you know. And then on top of that, I think they also had like this. So at the time they wanted people to like sign up with their phone verification. They want to do like a OTP, like we're using the phone verification, and then they blocked out certain people who had certain providers. So like if you had like Cricket, like if you had Cricket or whatever like that, you couldn't play Overwatch because
Overwatch is like, I smell broke. Get out of here.
Yeah, I know, right? It was just like, oh, we looking for, well, no, this game ain't for you, bro. This game is for the whales. And it's
we need them pay to winners right here. We don't need you,
bro. And it's just like,
you got Cricket.
It's just like, it's so ridiculous, and it's something that just like Blizzard is just dropping the ball again and again and again with these titles, and that also kind of like makes me a little bit hesitant with the direction that they're going with Diablo. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and Diablo's a pay to play game. Like Diablo's is something you actually have to spend money on to actually get access to the game versus Overwatch 2. And my thing is like, you know, if you're constantly dropping the ball with these like titles that you've made and that you like created a franchise around, it's like, bro, like how does Diablo 4 fare? Because even Diablo Immortal on mobile was like terrible. Like that was a straight up pay to win element in that game. I mean, granted, it's a mobile.
Most mobile games they're all gotcha. They all just want you to keep spending money to keep rolling and getting loot. Like,
exactly.
I would never play it anyways to begin with.
Exactly. So I mean, but they also so they went and talked with game director Aaron Keller and executive producer Jared Noose, and they said that the team had made the decision to take PvE elements of Overwatch 2 in a different direction and detailed a roadmap for upcoming seasons that reveal a new hero, maps, rebalances, and a number of story focused additions. And so this is kind of like the direction now that they want to go towards now. So instead of like the original idea of, you know, like a more like they didn't give a specific number of people who could play per like server, I guess, as far as the PvE goes. But basically, you would team up with your friends and take on a narrative driven story. And it seems like they're kind of shifting focus away from how that is, and I'm assuming they want to go more towards like a seasonal narrative, basically, kind of like similar like with the PvP, where it's like every season there's like a new character, new story around that character, things like that, and then the entire season is just focused around that new story for that character and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's just like I don't get it. I don't get it with, you know, coming out with the announcement. Well, no, that's I do get it. I do understand why they're doing it. And it goes back to what you said before, where they're just like drawing up hype for the game. You know what I'm saying? And this would allow like a broader audience. And even right here where they kind of like GameSpot kind of like hits the nail on the head with it, where they say PvE, whether a stated goal or not, was looking like a tool to broaden the appeal of the game, with the thinking being that people who can't or don't enjoy playing in online competitive environments could do single co-op and have this interesting, unique experience. That means the Overwatch player base diversifies and grows. And is that, I'm assuming that's something that you kind of like agree with too, Anthony, whereas it's like they specifically just said this to kind of like grow the player base and rack up more, you know, counts.
Of course, because if they were planning on really doing it, they wouldn't have canceled it like they are. What reason is there to cancel it?
Yeah.
They didn't have a story to begin with. That's the reason.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't, and it's I think also too they also probably didn't have the story all the way fleshed out, I would assume, but they also I think they also speak about too just the technology behind it, the being able to actually develop this within the time frame that they want, which is complete, in my opinion, just like for me, it falls on deaf ears, because it's like, okay, when you announce this game, when you announce Overwatch 2, you know, this game, like the idea of it had been like in development or pre-production for like at least 3 or 4 years prior to the actual release of this game. So it's like you had a while to kind of flesh PvE out if you wanted to. I think personally, in my opinion, if you would ask me, I think that Activision Blizzard saw that this was going to expend more resources and not make as much money. There aren't any ways to kind of like make more money doing more work for story missions versus PvP, whereas like we have to kind of manufacture and make you feel like you have to spend money on battle passes, on characters, on skins, or like things like that. We have to make you want to spend money, and you just living in co-op doesn't do that for us. What do you think about that, like idea or reasoning by like, you know, them scrapping the story missions?
Yeah, I guarantee you that it was already decided to be canceled the second they mentioned it because of that exact thought. Like, they can't make money on it. Now, if they really wanted to try and make money on it, they could have made it a payable DLC.
Yeah.
I mean, because to say that you couldn't reach a deadline, it's essentially DLC to begin with, just free DLC.
Yeah.
So who's expecting it to be out right now?
Yeah.
Literally no one. So you're scrapping it because you figured out it's not economically feasible to do. Make it a payable DLC, 10, $15.
Yeah, I mean,
now you get your paid, just like Halo did.
Yeah,
you get to play that multiplayer for free, and you pay for the campaign, even though it sucked. But I mean, they could have done something along those lines instead of just saying, "Oh no, we're not doing it," because they weren't going to do it to begin with.
Yeah, or I mean, they could have just went down the Destiny 2 route. You know, like Destiny 2 is a free to play game, but they have purchasable expansions that offer more narrative driven gameplay, as well as more weapons, newer enemy types, newer bosses, things like that. They could have easily gone that route. You know what I'm saying? My thing is that I truly think that it wasn't feasible within the time frame that they needed it to be.
I don't think there was any time frame though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's DLC. It's expected to be released in the future. They're just saying that to say it.
Yeah. And I also think too, the major one is that there was no way they could probably monetize it. They couldn't come up with a strategy to monetize it or to exceptionally monetize it. Like, how can we make this PvE mode be more expensive as far as to the consumer versus PvP? You know?
Yeah, I guarantee you that's it, because look at these two companies right here. Activision and Blizzard, obviously they're one now, but the greediest like video game company there is. That why do you think like a Call of Duty releases every year?
Yeah.
Because they have to keep the money coming in.
Yeah.
Like even if it's nowhere near good, they just keep making new ones over and over. Like,
yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people like the fact that, you know, are supportive. I'm not necessarily supportive of monopolization, but, you know, I can see why people would support having Microsoft purchase Activision Blizzard to kind of, you know, hope that, you know, because they've already said that, you know, like once this Activision Blizzard deal goes through, Call of Duty won't be a yearly, like an annual release anymore. Call of Duty is going to release semi-annually. So that means the game will be in development for like at least 3 or 4 years versus like 2, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I could see that, but man, it's just, it's a complete like letdown. I always thought too, like Overwatch 2 was just a weird case, because it's like, how can you, like, what can you do? Overwatch 1 set the bar. You know, you pay $60. That was another crazy thing too. Overwatch 1 was $60 and it was just PvP only.
Yeah.
It was just PvP only. And it's like, okay, you know, and like Overwatch created the whole loot box craze. Like, you know, like they made that popular, stuff like that. But my thing was like, how are you going to go like to Overwatch 2? Like, how are you going to make this game more like incentivize people to buy a sequel? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like from the beginning, it was just a waste of resources. I feel like from the beginning, it was just like, why even do that when you could just, when next gen consoles come out, you just remake, or not remake, but kind of like upgrade Overwatch 1 to modern day consoles with enhanced graphics, stuff like that. And then you just, make it a live service. Like, that's the goal. That was the aim of it. The aim, like back then, was to do like live service. That's why they had loot boxes, and they call it surprise. Yeah. They call it surprise mechanics, which is, crazy. But it's just like, they had loot boxes then. So they wanted it to be like a live service. The most optimal way that I could see from just my point of view is that do an enhanced version of the game, similar to Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto's been, Grand Theft Auto 5's been transcending consoles for how many, 13, 15 years?
Yeah, we already know over this. The kids that started playing in their teens are full-grown adults, probably with houses and children now.
Exactly.
Like, they've been doing it for that long.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Is like Overwatch 1 had that same opportunity, in my opinion. They could have just, instead of calling it Overwatch 2, you just call it Overwatch Enhanced Edition or whatever, like, title you want to tag on.
Just do 2.0. You don't have to make it 2, because 1.0 is 1. 2.0 is just like a service pack.
Yeah.
Just an extended version of it, just newer, revitalized.
Yeah, you put
something
it on
different, not the exact same thing, and then a forced update literally wipes 1 away, and now you only have 2.
Yeah,
it's just weird.
Yeah, it was just a weird. I like it goes back to mismanagement. It goes back to mismanaging your resources. Like, in my opinion, just having people who are in administrative positions who ain't qualified to be there. Essentially, in my opinion, I just want to be blunt about it. There's just people that are in administrative positions who aren't qualified to be in leadership roles and creative positions like that. So it's just like, it doesn't make sense to create Overwatch 2, make it free to play, and I feel like the only reason why you're doing free to play is because you trying to make it trendy. You trying to make trendy, and it opens up the player base to like more people than just buying it. You know what I'm saying? But me, I've always been against free to play games, because free to play games always end up in a terrible state, and they allow more access to the game, which invites people who can cheat, who have like bots and things like that, or cheating software and stuff like that to combat, because like they do it right now with Warzone, like with Call of Duty, like Call of Duty Warzone and Warzone 2, even when, and I got a lot of flack for this, like before when Halo dropped the free to play multiplayer, the first thing I said was that it's going to invite cheaters, and then day one release flooded with cheaters. Game was like buggy, broken, like, hit registration was just off. You know what I'm saying? There was desync issues, all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I feel like when you have that, when you put, and I don't like support like putting stuff behind a paywall, but my thing is that certain stuff needs to be behind a paywall, because it incentivizes keeps the riffraff out, but it also incentivizes developers to be like, okay, we have to make sure this game comes out in a legitimate state, or else people are going to refund this money back, and now we're going to look terribly in as far as optics go. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna look even worse, because the game's gonna be buggy, and on top of that, people are gonna be sending their money back to us. People are gonna be requesting their money back from us. And so I don't know, like it's a weird like situation. They quoted, they said, you want to build something that really resonates and that people love. As the team learned more about what it took to make the PvE mode, as it learned more about the time, the iteration, and the technology required, it just became clear that the schedule wasn't going to work. I feel like that's a cop out. We both just said that's a cop out. Like,
yeah,
you have PvP to tide you over. Like, you had PvP to tide you over. You spent a lot of time, like you because this information just recently came out, but during the time that Overwatch has been out, they've dropped, I think, 3 characters. You spent time on creating new characters, creating new abilities, things like that for those characters, and then spending time and resources on creating cinematic trailers that kind of introduce people to the characters. I mean, like high quality animated trailers that probably cost a lot of money because animation's more expensive than live action is. So you spent a lot of money and a lot of resources on things that are really considered extras that wasn't the selling point of Overwatch 2. The selling point of Overwatch 2 was PvE. So when you think about it that way, it goes right back to mismanagement. Why are you spending time and resources on DLC characters or on additions to the character base instead of focusing your time and effort and money and resources on the selling point, which is the PvE mode? You know what I'm saying? So it's I take it back to mismanagement. It's just mismanagement on Blizzard's part. And it's more so about how can we extract resources and money from our consumer base versus what can we give them, or versus focusing on the initial promise, in my opinion. Do you have anything else to say on this or any like closing?
Yeah, I'm sure they're just still making money hand over fist on the loot boxes, so they don't even care.
Yeah. Well, they actually had to take the loot boxes out, so now it's all battle passes. They couldn't do loot boxes anymore because they got banned in gambling. Like a bunch. Yep, exactly. They got banned in a bunch of other countries, so it's like, okay,
it's a surprise box. Surprise, you're gambling.
A surprise mechanic.
Yeah.
All right, moving on, we have a new announcement from Amazon Games, and they're supposedly supposed to be working on a new AAA Lord of the Rings MMO. What do you think about this? Because we already know Amazon's track record for video games. I'm curious and interested to know what you think about this news.
I love Lord of the Rings. I've loved it since I was a child. I don't want Amazon making a game for Lord of the Rings, like at all. I don't want Amazon making any games anymore ever again. And in that matter, actually, like they're just awful. And to tell you the truth, they should be kind of limiting their shows as well. The Amazon just sucks as far as entertainment goes.
I completely understand. Man, it's just, I don't know where to even begin with this because they don't have a good track record of making games at all. Even with,
or a good track record of making anything's good that's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Even as far as like the TV show goes, like the Rings of Power TV show has been touted as like one of the worst like iterations of the Lord of the Rings lore to begin with. Even the most recent MMO that they released, which was New World, that game was played with all kind of issues day one. Like their servers couldn't sustain the player count. The servers were down. They had to go back, and I think they had to go back and initially create more servers because of just the sheer amount of people that was trying to get to that game. Like I'm pretty sure that game had like 800 or 900,000 concurrent player counts on Steam. So it's like, you know,
was that the game that was nuking GPUs?
Yeah, that was a game that was nuking GPUs on Reliant. Like, I mean, like it was new. I'm pretty sure it was nuking like 3080s and 3090s.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, Amazon, don't do it.
Yeah,
like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so it's like, yo, man, like Jeff Bezos is out here. Like, look, we don't give a damn. We gonna try to do whatever we can to take money from you. We don't even care whether or not the shit plays right or whether or not we don't care about your hardware. Just buy our game. I was like, no, bro, I'm not buying something that can legit brick my entire system.
Yeah, but see, when your system bricks from this game that you bought from us, just buy another GPU from us.
Yeah, it's that simple, bro.
Keep them coming back.
Yeah, bro. Why do you care about your $2,000 GPU, bro? You should be giving us money and giving Nvidia money.
Yeah,
you're just being cheap, bro. You need to get on board.
I know. Man, what were we thinking?
I'm just like, bro, like this shit is just it's crazy to me. I mean, look, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got rights to Lord of the Rings. You didn't get all of the rights to Lord of the Rings, but they spent a lot of money on the rights to Lord of the Rings. So of course they're gonna do what Big Corp does and milk it. They're gonna milk it. And so
it's the Disney and Star Wars effect.
Exactly. And so they're just gonna
seeing it in the infancy phase.
Yeah, they're just gonna do whatever they can to kind of like, you know, you know, build like some sort of rapport, even though that's hard to do because it's like you guys don't have first of all, you don't have a good track record of making games. And on top of that, the Amazon Game Studio is a fairly new thing. Like they only have like 3 or 4 titles, I think, that have been released under the Amazon Games moniker. So it's like, look, my thing is that if you're going to do this, then you got to do it right. You got to do it right. And you got to make sure that you come out the door. Like you got to come out the gate swinging because people are already looking like, yeah, I don't know if I want to buy another MMO from Amazon Game Studio again. Like you guys don't have the best track record. You guys, doesn't really seem like you can develop a proper MMO to begin with, because they could have succeeded really well with New World. Like New World's concepts were really good. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like, like it was like, you had like the PvP side of it where you can join a faction and, take on multiple different factions and kind of have like this tug of war, pull from other sides of a faction's base and stuff like that, and you taking over stuff, you fighting other people and stuff like that. But then they also had the PvE side of it where it was kind of like, you can like go out and explore the world, extract resources, different things like that. Like even on the PvP side of it, you could like set up a little shop and you can sell the things that you came across, like you can make, like you can do blacksmithing, make like weapons and stuff like that, and then have like a little shop for people in PvP mode that, you may be higher level than them or whatever, but you can kind of like, communicate, sell the weapons that you've either found or crafted or whatever like that. You could have like your own little like shop that you could kind of trade and get money from and stuff like that. Like they had that set up in there. It's just they didn't have the servers. They didn't have the bandwidth for the amount of people that wanted to play. And it's like,
yeah, because on paper it sounds amazing.
Yeah, but it's like you have to have that foundational structure first before you even get to that point, and that's where they failed at. And it's like if they don't come with a good foundation for the Lord of the Rings is a big property, so it's like
with diehard fans,
exactly,
lifelong diehard fans, too.
Exactly. So like this isn't New World. Like this isn't something like if you thought 900,000 concurrent players like destroyed your server bandwidth, then you're doing Lord of the Rings. Like you're about to get that 10 times over.
Yep.
Like not only are you getting people who are fans of Lord of the Rings, like the old video games, but you're getting people who are or just video gamers in general of MMOs, stuff like that. But then you're getting people who may be interested in playing the game who just know the books and the movie. The books and the movie properties, and they want to get in on whatever this AAA game is. So it's like, in my opinion, you got to come out swinging. You know what I'm saying? Now
they won't.
Yeah,
they will not.
What do you think then, as far as like No,
I mean I agree with you totally that they need to do that, but they don't care.
Yeah,
like it's. This dude won't even let employees take leaks at his warehouses.
Yeah.
without clocking out for breaks. So you think he's gonna care about a video game that has a huge diehard fan base and has literally has fans of all ages and video game players of all ages too. Like there could be a 60-year-old who's still playing that one we were talking about off the podcast, the 2011. Lord of the Rings MMO that's still getting updates right now.
Oh yeah, yes. Lord of the Rings.
I guarantee all those people would want to transfer over to this new one, and that's like it's Amazon. So I have no faith. If it was another production company, any other one, I would have way more faith. Yeah. But yeah, Amazon doesn't care.
Yeah, and it seems like it seems like just from what what I'm reading there, Amazon Games is partnering with Embracer Group. So this is so for me, it's like, okay, Embracer Group, that could be the
servers they're going to be using is the real question.
Oh, they're most likely going to, well, they may have in-house servers, but since they're partnering with Embracer Group, I would almost bet that Embracer Group is going to be the
hosting it as well.
Well, I think Embracer Group's probably going to be the head develop. Like they're gonna take developers from Embracer Group's like already existing like IPs and stuff that they worked on previously. Because Embracer Group, they are known for like producing Gearbox studio games. So like all of the Borderlands games, stuff like that. Sadly, the most recent one is Saints Row, but that could be argued. That could be argued that Embracer Group just bought Deep. I think Embracer Group bought Deep Silver, or I think they bought Deep Silver or something like that, along with a bunch of other studios from Square Enix. And
nice.
Yeah, and Deep Silver I think was already working on Saints Row before that acquisition. And so the Embracer Group kind of took that loss on the head. So I don't think like Embracer Group has a good track record. Like they haven't I can't name like a terrible game in my opinion that I could remember. And the Embracer Group is really known for like publishing Gearbox studio games. So it's like with a bunch of the developers or a bunch of the studios they've purchased from Square Enix, because I think they purchased the same. They purchased the same studio that made the Deus Ex games from Square Enix, which are really good games.
Those are decent games, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like the only saving grace that I could think of, it would be just like they could kind of funnel some of the resources from Embracer Group into Amazon Game Studios to help with the development for this new Lord of the Rings. Because I'm pretty sure this game is going to be all hands on deck. Like
it needs to be.
Yeah, this game is going to be all hands on deck. Because it's specifically being done by Amazon Games Orange County, which is the studio that did New World. You know what I'm saying? Well, they're leading the development on it. So they're leading the development on it, which is not a good look. But if they could get some help from some of the resources that Embracer Group has, that could also be really good. And just some of the studios that Embracer has got before, they've got Crystal Dynamics, and they're working on a Tomb Raider game, which they're collaborating with Amazon again on. And so they also have like some of the the Deus Ex developers and stuff like that too. But they also they're collaborating with Amazon, or partnering with Amazon on a bunch of other stuff too. So they have like Throne and Liberty from NC Soft, which I'm not too familiar with that game, but one of the other big noticeable games is Blue Protocol with Bandai Namco. And so like they have a bunch of titles coming out. But the biggest one though is Lord of the Rings from Amazon Game Studio. And it just seems like, man, like, I don't know. I don't necessarily have really good faith in Lord of the Rings from Amazon Game Studio. And it just seems like it's just going to be like another, like, it could be another New World if they don't learn from their past mistakes.
Straight shit show.
Yep, definitely. Do you have any other thoughts on this?
No.
All right. So moving, it's just like, nah, I don't have any faith in it. Move on, please.
Yep.
All right. So the next big story that's coming out this past week is gamers are demanding playable demos before pre-orders after a string of buggy launches. Man, isn't this something we've been preaching like for the past few videos, bro? It's like
almost since we started this podcast.
I know, right? It's just like it seems like developers either announce a game and then a few months later, or almost a year later, when the closer to the game's release, they announce a delay. Delay a game multiple times. That's just become the norm now. Or they announce a game and then release it in a shit state and just like completely bugged out, like piece of shit state. And some of the examples that they give here on gamingbible.com is The Last of Us Part 1, which was a port
starring Eugene Levy.
It's just like, man, like if you could like looking at this screenshot of just Joel is like, it's so.
I told you that ain't Joel, that's Eugene Levy. He's looking for his son in the American Pie, bro. I don't know who that is.
It's just like ridiculous, bro. Like I don't understand why. Like I don't understand like the miscarriage in like these different properties, bro. It's like they don't care. They don't give a damn anymore. You know, like The Last of Us is one that you know has in recent events. Redfall, another recent one was just like, bro, like
Great game.
yeah, it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like now, in your opinion, and I want to ask you this: do you think a playable demo would have saved Redfall from its disastrous launch?
If they would have taken bug reports, yes. But it seems like they don't even care. QA testing exists, but they don't heed what suggestions are made and like what issues are happening. They just are you able to play it? Were you able to do stuff? All right, game out. Like so, I would love if the demos came out like they did back in the day, where you play the demos, you get a little glimpse of the game, and you know how the game plays before you buy it. So that way, you know if this game is fucked right now, let me wait. I'll wait for it to have its patch updates and stuff like that. Or if it just is terribly received, they actually do something about it. Even push back like the actual release date. Like I don't care if games get pushed back as long as they come out working. So
yeah, I completely agree. It's like
it would only work if they really take the advice.
Yeah, and it's like I think, and it goes back to mismanagement. I think that the preparation for a game's release needs to be taken like more seriously now. You know what I'm saying? Because not only are we getting reports now of, you know, people not spending $70 on games anymore like that. You know, not only are we getting like reports of like, you know, a downtrend with that, people are being dissatisfied with the releases of games now and stuff like that. It's like you need to have some kind of buffer in between that, you know, like you need to have some sort of, you know, I implore the early access type of model, you know what I'm saying? And the problem is that people like, I think there's just like a thing where AAA developers think they're just too good to put their games in early access state to allow
that
people.
That is 100% what it is.
Yeah, because it's more so just like, you know, all I see is like small, like either AA studios, not even AA studios do it that often, but like single A or like very niche or like independent game developers putting their games in early access and allowing the, you know, allowing the consumer base to kind of like test the game out. The only studio that I could think of, right, that has done a true early access stage on their game that is a AAA studio. I mean, I would consider them AAA studio because they have like very like noticeable games and like is Larian Games. I think it's Larian Games, Larian Studios, the developers behind Divinity Original Sin and the new Baldur's Gate 3 game. Baldur's Gate 3 has been in early access for a little over a year. That game comes out in August of this year, and it's been in early access, I think, since the end of 2022 or not the end of 2022. It's been in early access since like the end of 2021 or like the beginning of 2022. So that game's been in early access for like a little over a year at this point now. And it's doing, you know, incredible. Like that game's amazing. Like it's like, I mean, like they've put a lot of time, effort, energy into that game. And it's like, you know, yes, people are like upset that, man, it's taking a long time or whatever like that for the game to officially release. But it's like, you have access to it. You know what's happening up front with it. There is no mystery behind it. There is no like, you know, or we just have to let people, you know, figure it out when the game comes out. Be like, you know, take a risk on buying a game or something like that. Like, no, like you pay for the game, you get it in its current state, and then you actually watch development on the game. Like they have community updates. They have, as far as like, you know, their community manager, like sending out patch notes and everything on Steam, being able to, I think AAA studios could benefit from that. You know, like if you don't want to spend money and resources, you know, because you just, you know, greedy corporatists, if you don't want to spend money and resources on having QA testers, then at least put your game in early access and let people like, you know, give feedback on it for free. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like,
Yeah, I was gonna say the irony of these early access games on like PC and just in general is that they play better in their early access form than most of these games with full releases.
yep,
Like,
yep.
and it blows my mind. And they're also not AAA titles. I don't understand it. Like, remember when we were playing the hell out of Hunt Showdown when that game was in early access?
Oh yeah,
That game was perfect from the beginning, and I bought that thing at like $15,
yep,
and it's a $60 game.
yep,
And that game in early access was amazing. Nothing, I didn't think they needed to change anything. Shading was great, gameplay was great, graphics were great,
yep,
physics were great, everything was good.
yep.
We put like 300 hours into that game in early access alone.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I couldn't see myself doing that on any game that has recently released full access, straight on the console or anything like that without having any problems. It's just unheard of.
Yeah, it's just getting ridiculous at this point, and it seems like a lot of gamers over on Reddit kind of like voice their opinion on this. Many gamers believe that more developers should release playable demos for their games before people actually put in their pre-orders in an attempt to flag issues earlier on and ultimately avoid disappointment. And I think that is the direction to go moving forward with game studios, whether or not they do it or not, which I'm very like on the side of like, they don't give a damn. They don't care. Only thing they care about is the only thing they care about is the bottom line and whether or not you're going to spend $70 on this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think they care at all. Here's from one Reddit user, Preppy22 suggested that considering the state in which most games are releasing these days, I think it's fair to ask studios to release a playable demo with at least 30 minutes of gameplay to showcase the graphics, performance, general mechanics, if they're expecting pre-orders, etc. They also go on to say asking for full price for a promise is incredibly shady, in my opinion, and we as gamers shouldn't encourage this. Playable demos representative of the finished product would at least give us some inkling as to the game's performance before we put down our money. I completely wholeheartedly agree with that. Like, if you think about it, they're asking you to spend $70 on a promise, and then it's like, even to go farther than that is that they don't fulfill that promise when the game releases, and then they ask you to, release DLC content or whatever like that for it. They
pay for that too.
Yeah, they have that in the roadmap already, but then they want you to like be like, okay, please don't refund your money. Just keep having faith in us. And it's like, no, like, I had faith in you before I spent my $70, which is why I bought the game at day one, and then you just release like a terrible product, and now you still want me to have faith again? Like, no, it's ridiculous at that point. You know what I'm saying? It's like, incentivize people to want to pre-order your game. Incentivize people to want to, have an interest in the game you're making. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people in the comments gonna probably come at me talking about, well, that's what DLC is for, and that's why when you pre-order it, you get all of the different skin packs and all that. Look, that shit doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean none of that shit means anything if the game doesn't work. You know what I'm saying?
How are you gonna add your new skin if you can't even play the game?
Exactly. It's like none of that shit means nothing. Like, that's not an incentive anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's not an incentive for me to pre-order a game. Like, even if
what would be a great incentive for a pre-order, even if they didn't want to release a demo for free and like just didn't want to do it in general or give you like early access, it would be great if even with a pre-order you get an early access.
Exactly.
At least something. And that way if you want to keep your pre-order or you want to return it.
But even then, though, there are some games that do allow that, but they only do it like 4 days before the game come out.
Nah, it needs to be earlier.
Yeah, no, we need to have access to the game like months in advance. You know what I'm saying? Like
at least 3 months.
Yeah, at least 3 to 6 months in advance, and then have like a playable portion of the game there. It doesn't necessarily have to be the entire map. Like if it's an open world game, it doesn't have to be an entire map or anything like that. It can be a small section carved out for you to be able to do a couple of side quests or whatever like that. Play the game in its early access state, and then you make a decision on whether or not you want to, get a return.
Your purchase.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. So, I mean, others kind of pointed out too as well on Reddit. It worked previously. It ought to work now. I remember getting a game demo on CD with PC Gamer magazine, running them to see which game to actually buy. And they also kind of use Resident Evil 4 Remake as an example, where Resident Evil 4 Remake upon release, it dropped a playable demo. So you could play the game before the actual release, and that came out like I want to say it came out like a month and a half before the actual game came out.
You know, who would have ever thought Capcom would actually like let people down?
I mean, yeah, they've been doing pretty good with their remakes lately. Like
they've been doing pretty good with almost everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I've never been like, oh, this game sucks or this game's broken. Like, dude, it's Capcom.
Yeah.
They have the Nintendo effect. Like,
yeah.
Yes, it might be a little laggy, but it's still 100% playable and still 100% a good game.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I mean, and that, like I said, it just comes down to like knowing. It comes down to knowing your developer too, like knowing or the publisher. You know what I'm saying? Like knowing which one's to trust, which one's not to trust. Almost like certain developers of games, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'm buying that because I know for a fact like you haven't let me down before. You know what I'm saying?
If I see EA developing a game, I'm like, I'll wait.
Yeah. Most likely,
I'll wait.
That's how I am.
Division, I'll wait.
Yep.
Like, bro, I got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 like 4 or 5 months after it released, and Warzone 2 was pure garbage, unplayable, laggy. I was rubber banding everywhere. I have great Wi-Fi. I have great internet.
Yeah.
So, like, bro.
It's
It's
just getting ridiculous, man. There's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it.
There's no even good time to wait anymore. Like you have to wait for the game to be a year old to be like, oh, the bugs are all fixed now.
Yep. Yeah. Like I feel like too, like some of these day one patches don't even exist no more. Remember there was a time where it was like, yo, if the game, like, like you got to play, like you got early access to the game or you played like a little bit of the game when it released in like a different country or whatever like that. You know what I'm saying? Like if a different country got it before the US did and stuff like that, like they would report on bugs or whatever.
Patch it before it releases here. Yeah.
Exactly. They would do a day one patch and then you'd have to download like 20, 30 gigs or something like that. And then, you be good.
Well, I'll tell you this. There is a day one patch. It still does exist because probably, in my opinion, what's going to be either game of the year or runner-up game for the year is Tears of the Kingdom, and they had a day one patch right out release.
That's what I'm saying, and
that game, it's for me, it's played flawlessly.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like I don't see those. Those are like far and few in between nowadays. Like I don't know what's going on with the ecosystem. I don't know what's going on with game development ecosystem. A lot of people like to blame it on, remote, being fully remote and COVID and all this stuff like that. It's just like, nah.
Yeah,
bro.
COVID's like 3 years ago, and literally no one cares about that right now anymore. It's that ain't it. That ain't it.
It's not it. Not at all. But yeah, do you have anything else before we move on?
No, we've been saying it for the past 3 podcasts.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
I think we're good on this subject.
Exactly. All right. So moving on to the last topic today, and I wanted to bring this kind of like to attention. Enshrouded, brand new game that's coming to Steam, early access. It is being dubbed as like Valheim meets Zelda. It's co-op survival gameplay, or co-op survival game. If we watched the trailer together, what are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts before I give my opinion on it?
Oh, I've seen it before, but I guess that was just like a newer updated trailer. But I mean, it looks cool. Survival's really not my thing. I like open world, I like RPGs, but I don't like the survival aspect of it. Yeah. But it does look good. Well, at least as far as like not official game releasing graphics go. But I mean, yeah, it looks fine to me.
Yeah, I thought it looked. I mean, I'm more into survival games myself. I play games like Scum, Dead Side, things like that, like more like hardcore survival games. This game seems to be more tame. It's they say that it's in this article that it's the survival aspect is light. So it's a survival light. It seems to be more focused on PvE RPG elements. But it's 1 to 16 players. And it seems really cool. There's a lot of it's based in like a fantasy world. One of the cool things that I kind of wanted to point out with this though is that it's not procedurally generated. So they go on to say that Enshrouded world isn't procedurally generated like Valheim's though. It's one big crafted world similar to those found in Breath of the Wild or Skyrim. And that is a really good thing because games like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Skyrim, things like that are not procedurally generated. Most of everything in there is like handcrafted and it's not replicated upon AI. Depending upon AI, it's each piece of the world can feel different when you go to it, and that's because it's developed by the developers versus like games like No Man's Sky, for instance, where yes, you have an infinite universe and you have a large variety, not a large variety, but you have like a large amount of locations to go to, an infinite amount of locations
but
to go to.
Everything looks the same.
Yes, but everything looks the same. Everything is just, there may be small little tweaks here, but if you go to a different planet, the vegetation looks the same. The environment looks the same. The animals look the same, things like that. And I love when games aren't procedurally generated. Because for me personally, it
leaves you with more things to do.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And for me personally, it's like, I'm starting to get to the point of where I'm leaving that part of like, big open spaces to more smaller condensed spaces that are very dense in the elements that are within it. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, I love to give this as an example, but Dead Island 2, like Dead Island 2, it's not a big open world. It's clusters of a map. And it's separated between a loading screen. But when you go into these different environments, each one is different and each one delivers a specific experience. And, you can go into virtually almost like any area, like any building area. It's all fleshed out with, consumables, materials, things like that, versus like when you have like a big open world, sometimes it can just feel empty. You know what I'm saying? It can just feel like there's big empty patches, and it's like, oh yeah, they like to tout like the scalability of the game, but it's more so like, well, what's actually in the game? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
what's actually there? So it's like I prefer
usually nothing and procedurally generated.
Exactly, just usually nothing different.
Just expanding space.
Exactly. But they go on to kind of say, to kind of give a little small synopsis of the game, of the story. The game story revolves around a deadly fog that's consumed the world, which players must fight against. The only safe areas are mountaintops and higher locations that rise from the shroud like islands. Players must explore further into the world by descending into the lower regions, where they can only survive for a limited time before needing to resurface back above the fog. So that kind of adds a different kind of element to the gameplay as well. And I like how the story element kind of feeds into the gameplay aspect of it, because it almost kind of gives like a extraction type of gameplay. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's like timed what is it? Like timed scavenging and all that stuff in those areas.
Yeah.
You can't just be down there all day.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of gives like a more like, maybe that area is like a lot more dangerous than some of the areas that are above the fog on the mountaintops. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And there may be more key materials you need to be able to scavenge, or higher level weapons that you can get. So I actually like that element, and I like how the story kind of plays into that into the aspect of that game. But yes, it's coming to Steam early access later this year. Not an actual date on it. But yeah, it's supposed to be kind of like a love child between Valheim and Zelda, with a little bit of Minecraft element. So the only thing is that it's using that voxel technology, which I mean, I guess is kind of good, because it is like you can basically mold or, break down any kind of aspect of the game's environment, kind of like Minecraft, essentially. So, I mean, I think it looked pretty dope. I just wanted to bring this to, you know, everybody's attention with it. You know, go check it out on Steam. I think you can actually go to the Steam store page and wish list it, you know, follow it so you can keep being updated with by the development team on release if you're interested in this game. Are there any other things you want to point out with this before the end, Anthony?
No, I just know it's gonna be a hard game. I'll tell you that much. Even with survival being light, you start off pretty much as a caveman, loincloth and just skin. So it's gonna be a tough beginning, but it should you know, be worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that'll be pretty good for the hardcore survival gamers out there. The more hardcore gamers out there that want to have like start out with that challenge, don't want it too easy. I'm pretty sure that'll be right up you guys' alley. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Opposite the Monitor. Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel for more. And what else do they need to do, Anthony?
Always got to turn that bell on, man.
Hit that bell so you never miss a video. And thank you guys for tuning in.
Peace.